What is up, metal and heavy music fans? It's your boy, Flight of Icarus from MetalTrenches.com, and it's time for another episode of Trench Talk. Today I talk to Cory from the Mathcore, Nintendocore, Cybergrind, crazy project Zombieshark with their new album, I Will Destroy You, Myself, and Everything I've Ever Loved, which has quickly become one of my favorites of the year. And really had a great time sitting down with Cory and talking about all of his influences, his history getting into Nintendocore, our shared love of Silent Hill and the references that show up on the album, his crazy marketing and DIY stuff that he's doing with the packaging and all sorts of other cool things. But yeah, with that out of the way, let's get into the episode.
I'm Cory Swope, Cory Curly on Facebook, and I sing and scream and yell and fuck around in FL Studio and Zombieshark.
Hell yeah. And I'm curious to hear more about, like, how did Zombieshark just get started? Like, give us the history.
So I pretty much just grew up like in the middle of like fucking nowhere, like outer Reading area, and on it there's like barely little to no like real music scene kind of out there. I mean, mostly like in Lancaster and stuff, because like August Burns Red and shit. So there's like a lot of like metalcore bands and stuff, and a lot of
Mm-hmm.
like my really close friends from like high school were in like metalcore bands and stuff growing up. But the particular high school I went to like really just didn't have like any any real like musicians or anything, like anybody that was like really super into metal. So like I had like a group of like really solid friends who are in a metalcore band called Ascent Like Wolves, and they were really like the only people in like my entire neighborhood and whoever that were like doing like metal and shit. So I don't know. I've always kind of like been into like weirdo like mathcore kind of like heavy low low like Doctor Oculus, see you next Tuesday like type shit, and obviously like a lot of Nintendo core like Horse the band, and they're not really like Nintendo core, but like Arsonist Get All the Girls and shit. And
I
I don't know.
just discovered them. Like, somehow I missed that
Really?
group, and I just recently discovered them because I was doing a series of just like asking people to send me music videos that just make me laugh and are just kind of goofy. And they sent me, I forget what the name of the video was, but there's,
Shoot Shine for Neptune.
yeah, I think, yeah,
Oh.
yeah. So I did a reaction to that, and I'm like, these guys are rad. I need to check out the rest of their stuff.
Yeah,
But
they
anyways,
really fucking. I mean, they're still making music yet and shit, and it's really cool. But yeah, as far as like synthy metal stuff goes, like I was super into it, and I don't know. I like discovered like Nintendo Core like on YouTube and MySpace and stuff like going back, and it was something that I just like was really weirdly obsessed with and just like started fucking around with like on my own time and stuff. So I started like doing Zombie Shark back in like end of 2009, I think
wow,
maybe. But
okay.
it was more of like a joke kind of thing. Like, I was doing shit like in like eighth grade high school, like in fucking Garage Band or whatever, like whatever our computers had before I even had like FL Studio. And I don't know. I wrote like just like a bunch of like on and off like albums that were terrible, and like just like for like the longest time, because like I don't know, I just really like wanted to have like a musical outlet like so bad, and I didn't have a car for like the longest time like growing up either, so like transportation to like even getting to like people who were in bands and shit was
Yeah.
always like a fucking nightmare. So like I was always just kind of like stuck, like, you know, doing my shit. And eventually, like, I don't know, it just sort of like turned into like something that was like a hobby that I just ended up started taking like a little bit more seriously, because like I do like graphic design and illustration. I'm an illustrator and like visual artist like way before like being like a musician or anything, like, so to me it was like I never really like took a lot of this shit seriously. And then I don't know, I just like I ended up having like a lot more free time, and I was, fucking around and doing more with it. And then my friend Jeff, who played in a Scent Like Wolves, like we got together for a little bit and wrote the Digital C, and that ended up like being like the turning point, I think, because like Jeff and I like we one summer we just like hung out like every day and like we were just like working on shit and put these songs together and I was sitting on it forever and didn't really know what to do with it. So like in 2017, I just like put it out when I had like moved to Philly and shit, and like people like surprisingly liked it. So then I just started like playing shows with it and shit, and it inspired me to write "I Will Destroy You" and shit. So it's been a really
Nice.
cool, bumpy evolution, but it's been sick.
Yeah. What got you into like the weird mathcore stuff and Nintendocore to begin with? Because I know I didn't get into that stuff until somebody pointed it out to me in like college. So it seems
Right.
like you were fucking with it pretty early.
Dude, I was, man. I was like a really sad kid like growing up. Like, dude, I fucking like. I mean, when I mean like I grew up like in the middle of like fucking nowhere, dude. Like this is like desolation, USA. Like my parents' house is like parked in the middle of like a fucking cornfield inside of a cornfield inside of a cornfield. You know, and I know this sounds like super cheesy because everybody like memes the shit out of like early 2000s kids starter pack, but dude, I fucking lived on LimeWire.
Yeah.
Like my cousin Ashley, she was the first introduction actually. She showed me Gavin Dance when they they had just put out Everything I Say Is Like Royal Ocean, like very first album. Like I remember like she was showing me their MySpace page before they even had music up on it, and which is really fucking wild. And like they put out like a two-song demo with one song was called like Rain in Vietnam and the other one was Attack of the Dashing Young and Bold, and like that song like fucked my whole life up because like it's a really fucking like weird song for DGD to begin with, and ever since then like she showed me like LimeWire and everything, so I started getting into it, and my parents were like super like fucking Christian and like lame as hell too, so like they'd never like you know allowed like metal music and shit whatever, and I hated it so fucking much that I just wanted to have the most obtuse, obscure, horrible sounding
Yep.
shit
That's how
all
it
the time.
goes.
So, dude, I was like, just remember, like, I remember like having this like phase when I was like in high school where I just wanted every single band that had crazy album artwork and a crazy fucking name and like insanely ridiculously harsh vocals and anything that was just like super super fucking weird. Like, I wanted it, and I just like. I don't know. I've just been like super fucking into it ever since. And then my friend Alex in Ascent Like Wolves, he was also like super into like heavy low low and like number 12 looks like you, and like he was also like a huge influencer to me like when we started to become friends in high school and shit, and he like made me feel a lot less weird for like being into these bands because he was too and shit. So that was, yeah, I mean I've been fucking with that shit like for way too long.
Yeah. No, that's cool. I almost wish like I had gotten into it earlier because I hear, people talk about sort of the heyday of all that stuff, and I
Yeah,
came into it late. Like, I the number 12 was a turning point for me for sure
yeah,
when like I
right.
stumbled onto like Mongrel and Nuclear Sad Nuclear, but I didn't get into them until like a year before Worse Than Alone came out, which is still like one of my all-time favorite albums. Um
I think that's probably my favorite of theirs next to Rosy Red Glasses. I do have a soft spot for Nuclear Sad Nuclear, but I know a lot of people like shit on Worse Than Alone when it came out, and I think that album was just a little too forward thinking at the
oh, it's
time for people.
very
Everyone was,
way ahead of its time, which is what I
yeah.
loved about it. I was like, what the fuck is this? Like from the very
John
beginning
Carroll,
too.
yeah, John Carroll's like fucking drumming on that album
Yeah, the
is would be illegal.
The drumming's amazing. The guitar work is all over the place, and the vocal variety too is something that always
Yeah,
stands out to me. Like I get so sick of hearing bands where like the vocalist is just like one note the entire time.
yeah,
So
me too.
anytime people are like really stretching their range to like try new stuff and get weird, um,
Mhm.
which is something I love about mathcore because there's a lot of that weirdness, like newer stuff too, like the sound that ends creation. Like I love all
Yeah,
the weird like
yeah.
warbly singing and stuff that they throw in there, and it's
Yeah, Chris is fucking sick. He's a homie
yeah,
for sure.
yeah, I love Chris. He's cool. I have I had him on here? I'm like losing track now. I've done so many of these that I can't remember if I've had him on here or not. I think I did actually. I'll have to go back through my episodes. That's sad that I can't even remember who all I've talked to at this point.
Shit. Yeah, dude, I love like any kind of like extreme like vocal variety and shit. I think that's what like pulled me into like number 12 like so much too, because like the fact that they had like they were like one of the first bands I think I had found that had two vocalists that were like all screaming.
I love that.
And yeah, me too. Especially when it's like really when there's like a really solid like dynamic between them, like um, because like on Put On Your Rosy Red Glasses, it's just fucking terrifying because they're doing that like fucking bird screeching like scramsy like fucking shit. But it's cool to like see them like transition like into like more weirdo kind of like clean vocals on Worse Than Alone. And I remember that being like a big thing people didn't like about that album, but revisiting it now, I'm like, God fucking damn, this is a fucking
It's
masterpiece.
yeah, it is a
Like, everyone was
masterpiece.
fucking stupid as hell 10 years ago.
What did you think of the new one?
Of
The number
the
12?
number 12 album. I I liked it a lot. I don't know. I feel like there is something to say about like a band that waits a really long time to like put out an album,
Yeah.
and I think there's like this really unfortunate thing that happens where like it's one thing. I feel like 4 years is like the max. I feel like if you wait like any time past that, and you're looking at like a fucking like comeback album, I feel like people's expectations
Yeah.
become like something that the band is like incapable of reaching. Not that they ever fucking should. Um, I liked it a lot. I think it's still kind of like grown on me yet. Like I think
Yeah, same.
instrumentally it's really tight, but production wise, I didn't like it as much as Worse Than Alone. Like I think the production on Worse Than Alone is like the best like that band like has sounded. And I think like sounding wise, like on the album, I don't know, there's something weird about it. It seems like it's almost like too reverby in like some areas,
Yeah.
and sounds like it gets like a little muddy in some places where like it's nothing that the band is doing. I think song structurally and like everything like sounds really fucking sick and on point, but recently like I've just been like super into like production standpoints and stuff like that, and I just feel like there's some areas that I don't know, they come across as like a little muddy for
Yeah.
for what
I feel
should
like
be.
the flow isn't quite there too of like the album as a whole.
Yeah,
Like with Worse Than Alone, it's jumping all over the place, but somehow they managed to make it all feel like one concise thing. Whereas I feel like the new one kind of like feels like just a jumble of all sorts of different ideas that don't always gel. I almost wish they had
yeah.
released it under a different name because to me it almost like doesn't quite feel like a number 12 record. But
I
I don't
feel
know.
that. I feel like Jesse. I mean, it's not the same lineup. It's not the same
Right.
atmosphere, and it seems like Jesse kind of like spearheads like most of it now, like which is awesome. Like I think that dude is like fucking amazing, and
Yeah.
like he's just like untouchable, like untouchably like talented, like in all ways. But it definitely seems like it's spearheaded by him a lot more than it is like a full
Yeah.
effort in the band.
Yeah.
So. I don't know. I got no hate with like number 12 or anything like that, but I do feel
No.
like a little mixed on like the newer album. I don't know. There's and it's weird too because like there's a lot of people I know that feel the same way about it, like me and you. So
Yeah.
I don't know. I definitely think that there is something to say though about a band that like waits like a really long time to like put out like
Yeah,
something.
definitely. It's like the hype becomes unattainable at a certain
Yeah,
point. And I feel
yeah,
like a few bands have pulled it off. There have been some comebacks recently that were surprisingly strong, but yeah, for the
yeah.
most part I feel like it never quite the expectations just get so high. People want you to sound a certain way. And I'll say I respect a band too that's just willing to kind of go their own way, even if they know the
Right.
fans may not like it as much. Like, I always give
Yeah.
Opeth as an example too. Like,
Right. Right.
Michael just decided to do what he wanted to do, and that alienated a huge part of the fan base. But, he's got to stay true to his vision, and I don't really like the newer stuff, but I respect it. So,
Yeah. I
I'd
think
rather them
too.
do that than fake it.
Right. Oh yeah, definitely. I think too. There's something to be said about like an album being like a chapter of someone's life, or like the
Yeah.
band life, and there's a lot of like things, because it could take, like a year to 2 years to like write an entire album and like everything that comes with it, as people writing and like as artists and shit. And I think like when there's like a long delay, like it's almost like you're missing like a bunch of chapters,
Yeah.
and then like the band like drops it. I feel like maybe that could like create like some kind of like disconnect because
Hmm.
it's like people didn't know what anyone was up to for like the last like 10 years or something, and it's like you drop like an album and shit and everything's like fucking different, and it could be hard for people to like kind of resonate with it maybe.
Yeah, for sure. Well, speaking of forward thinking, I know you had mentioned that with this latest album, you
Mhm.
had you were kind of testing the waters with some sort of new directions, and you weren't even sure kind of how
Right.
some of it was going to be received. So tell me a little bit
Yeah.
more about like where those ideas came from, and how it all played out.
Yeah, like I don't like I don't even really know I feel like I've been writing like Nintendocore kind of like even like in the world of like Nintendocore, like when I was really like writing it, like I've always like sort of been into like experimenting with like new sounds and stuff. And I come from like I approach songs like the way like an uh like a synth producer, like an IDM artist, or like an EDM, IDM, electronica artist would like approach a song before like a metalhead would approach it, I guess, So like I kind of feel like I've always like had this like want and need to like experiment with new synths and shit, and it's like I love like buying analog and like fucking around with like sounds like that and creating like new sounds and everything. And even like at the prime of like doing like Zombieshark like way back, like it's still kind of like I was still like doing something like kind of different. Like I feel like my stuff has always kind of just not fully been Nintendo Core up until like the Digital C, which I think was like what I would consider like peak, like my peak of like Nintendo Core, like where I wanted to like be as an artist, like putting that album out. And I don't know, I just kind of felt like with this new shit, like it was really taking a long time for Jeff and I to like work on the Digital C, and I'd kind of like fallen out of love with like basic, just like sort of normal by the books like Nintendo Core, which is already a niche fucking thing to begin with. But I don't know. I just kind of wanted to just I guess maybe like how you were just saying about like OTA, just like do like my own thing on it, Like it's definitely more like Cybergrind I think now than like actual Nintendo Core. Like I barely used
Yeah.
like
When I think
a
Nintendo Core, I think more kind of like jovial, goofy almost. That's
yeah.
often the vibe. This is definitely not that. I mean, there's a sense of humor, but it's definitely much darker than the
Yeah.
usual vibe.
Yeah, I kind of just felt like for me, for as lame as it is, like I really don't have like any other like real musical outlets or anything. Like I have a friend just up in like the last 2 months that just hit me up about starting like an actual like band thing, which has been like really exciting. But up until that point is like I never really had like anybody to like really write with or like been in like a full band setting. And most of the time like with like my art commissions and stuff and just like my work, like I'm always like super busy to begin with. And um just like making time for practice and shit has always been super hard. So I feel like this is like kind of like my only real musical outlet to like do whatever with. And for this album, like I just kind of wanted to just make something completely just different. And I don't know. I even now I still wouldn't even know what to really describe the sound as. Cybergrind's like a loose term, and I use like Nintendocore because I feel like that's like the only thing I have to like really give people like a general idea of what it is. But the project as itself, like I'm still kind of, I don't know.
Yeah. Were there other bands that you were listening to that you feel like kind of got fused into the sound on this one, or was it just pure experimentation?
There was a lot of shit. Like someone actually just asked me this morning about like where musical influences and stuff came from, and I don't know. Like I kind of wanted it to be like a celebration of a lot of like the older bands that I used to like listen to like in high school and shit, and like a celebration of like all of the things that I love in music and about like metal music and electronica. And I was listening to a lot of like early like a lot of like early scene band shit. Like I was listening to like I Set My Friends on Fire, Astral Rejection, not the re-release one, but like the original, because I don't know, like Matt Miana, like his fucking experimentation with like synth and stuff, like is really really interesting on that album. And I know it's like super cringe and like super stupid, but I have this like horrible like habit of like finding beauty in things that people fucking despise. And so I was listening to like a lot of that, and then like a lot of old like Sky's Airplane, like Everything Perfect on the Wrong Day, because that whole album like was just like Lee Duck, and I forget what the other kid's name is, but that's like a full on Nintendo Core album. I was also like I was influenced by that, and then like a lot of like early new metal shit too. So like I started writing this at the end of like 2017, and I was like really I had this like huge revitalization of my fucking love for Slipknot, and fucking like obsessively listened to Self-Titled and
Man, the
Iowa. Like,
self-titled is still, man, it's legendary.
it's one of the most groundbreaking fucking metal albums to ever exist. I
No
honestly,
album
it's
sounds
so
like it either, too, in my opinion. Like,
no,
it's just a
no,
super raw, just the drum sound, too. Like, every element of it is just pure angsty aggression,
it
no holds
is.
barred.
Yeah, dude, a lot of like what I was doing with this album like came from like this the Slipknot's like ideology of like everything is pushed to the max. Like we're gonna push every single aspect of this band to a fucking 10. It's like yeah, it's like we're gonna have like nine fucking members, and we're gonna have two fucking DJs, like eight fucking drummers, and we're gonna have six fucking guitarists, and
It's
Corey
crazy.
Taylor's just gonna show up for every single fucking show and scream and not take a fucking break, and everything's gonna be like maxed the fuck out. Like I really love that fucking ideology.
Yeah.
And it's like also to the point of like we're all gonna fucking wear masks, and we're all gonna wear fucking jumpsuits, and our stage is gonna have like all this fucking crazy shit. Dude, I got really really fucking obsessed with like their whole fucking imagery and like the whole
Oh, yeah.
ideology of
In high school,
like
too, man. I was.
yeah.
I
Dude,
was all
it's
over
crazy.
that.
It's so sick. Like, and Sid and Craig's like contributions to that band get so fucking overlooked. Like the electronic aspect of Slipknot is something that like really fucking fascinates me,
Yeah.
and it's something that I wish so fucking much that they would just do more with.
Yeah.
'Cause and like Iowa and shit, like they're doing like fucking noise and like fucking weirdo percussions, and it's really fucking dark and like fucking creepy and just super fucking angry. Like I don't know. And like Sid with like using like break beats and shit like over like the fucking metal riffs when
Yeah, it was
literally
great.
nobody was besides like Linkin Park on Hybrid Theory, which is also an amazing album.
Yeah.
Um yeah, like dude, I just like took this massive deep dive into like early new metal and was just so I don't know, I felt like my eyes were like reopened to new metal
It, I
again.
mean, it makes sense too because it's experiencing this weird resurgence, but it's not like like typically when there's a genre resurgence, it's like a wave of bands comes back around and literally just does the genre again. But now it's like all
Yeah,
these metallic hardcore bands have fused
right.
new metal into their sound, and that's sort of the new wave. of
Yeah.
this new metal stuff like Vane and Code Orange and all that kind of stuff.
And I think that there genuinely is something to save in new metal, and I just
Absolutely.
I hate how much I have this fucking conversation with people at my job who probably want to fucking kill me because I don't ever fucking shut up about it. But like I feel like there were so many groundbreaking, like really fucking awesome parts of like new metal. Like even in like Korn's like Life is Peachy. Like Life is Peachy is the weirdest fucking album of all time. Like just
It
guitar
is
wise and like
bizarre.
bass tunes, aggressions and just like the darkness of it. And we know when new metal got corny as shit. Like I'm not justifying like post like 2005 era new metal because that shit like we all know is like bad. But
Bad.
I feel like we've reached the point where like we know that like this we can take good shit out of like fucking new metal and like turn it into like something amazing. Like and I think
Totally.
like Korn even followed that. I mean, I felt like the Nothing was like probably one of the best
That was
things
a
that they've
shockingly good album. I had very
it
low
is.
expectations.
It is. It fucking is, dude. And I think it's like bullshit when like bands like I didn't really care honestly too much for the new Slipknot album. There's elements that I liked in it, but overall like I think with Slipknot's like case like their production like helps more than anything, and I think the reasons why Self-Titled and Iowa go so hard is because the production like isn't like top notch and it's like really gritty and like fucking gross and shit. And I think that it's like those bands could like be looking through their fucking back catalog and being like, yo, we actually made like all this like really fucking awesome shit. Let's just fucking piece it together like without stone sour.
Yeah.
you
Oh,
Let's just get that
God.
shit out of here.
I mean, literally, you don't need to bother. It was right there in the
Yeah,
lyrics. Maybe
yeah.
they shouldn't have.
Dude, but yeah, man, like I genuinely like love like new metal and like early new metal shit. Like there's still like stuff
That
that
was my gateway to everything, honestly. Before
yeah,
that, I was
same.
listening to, not that there's anything wrong with it because I still listen to this other stuff too, but I was listening to all like pop punk and rap and,
Right, right.
just my friend slipped the self-titled Slipknot into my Discman one day while we were on a road trip, and he's like, "Dude, you gotta fucking listen to this." And it was off to the races from that day
Right,
on. And it's crazy too with Slipknot because like when you describe it out loud, it just sounds so bonkers that it's like this never should have worked, but it was just
right,
like the perfect time. And Finn McKenty on the Punk Rock MBA, he did an episode talking about like bands having to market themselves and who's done it well, and he talks all
right,
about how Sean like just
mm,
sort of mastermind this whole thing and clearly had a business and marketing angle to it and
right,
knew how to
right.
package it just right. And that was the
Absolutely.
deciding factor of why they just took over. With all these other like masked gimmicky bands out, like nobody did it
Right.
as well as them. So
Yeah.
that's why they're
There,
still
there was
around.
there was just like an untouchable like driving force to fucking Slipknot that very few bands could ever come close to. I mean, like I know that they say that they've like swapped out members for live shows and shit, but like Corey Taylor has shown up and attended and played every single fucking Slipknot song. Like I don't know how you can like play like Spit It Out for like 30 days in a row, rest for 2 weeks, and then go out and like fucking do it again. Like
Yeah.
it never takes a fucking breath. Like it's fucking insane. It's like and they're miserable doing it. Like that's the thing too that I think a lot of bands don't understand is like they were fucking miserable like pushing themselves to like that limit. But it's like sometimes you need like that insane force to make a statement, dude. You set the bar like so high, nobody's ever gonna like fucking touch it, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Because who wants to go through that
Yeah,
shit?
seriously. Well, and speaking of fan bases too, I think that was something that has intrigued me with interviewing bands on here and most recently with your project is just seeing the bands who have the most like engaged fan bases are not always the ones I think that they would be. And so like your sound is like weird and niche and everything, but it seems like you have a really strong kind of diehard fan base on social media. And I'm curious like how did you make that happen? Like, share your secrets, because that's something that like I've been working on too, honestly, with the site and everything. And like I can build the numbers, but getting
Mhm.
people to like consistently comment and start a community and uh, communicate with each other is
Right.
difficult.
Uh, Dude, I don't know, man. I mean, like I've been doing this for like a really long time, you know, like and I think that is like time is everything, dude. And it's time and it's effort and it's like really how much you care about your product and your brand and shit, you know? And for me, you know, like Zombie Shark has always been like an extension of like my visual art and like graphic design and like paintings and shit like when I was a kid and everything, and it's like I've never like written Zombie Shark to like impress like people or anything, like I literally just like write music that I want to hear, and I have ideas that I want to hear and like fucking write them out and like try and write it and everything. And I was doing it for like so long, and I met like hundreds of people. Like the thing is like with Nintendocore, and like I've been trying so hard to like twist Finn McKenzie's arm into like doing a video about it, because it really was like
He needs to.
it is a culture in it. Like there are people
Absolutely.
that I know who are my friends now who've been like writing Nintendocore for as long as I have. Like fucking like I Killed Techno, Eric, is an amazing fucking artist and has been doing like a Nintendocore and Cybergrind and shit for as long as I have, and like still continues to like write it and everything. And there's people like we put out like compilations, and like it's a whole like network. And I think like the longer that I've been in it, like I've just met people and like talked to people and like been friends with like a lot of these people that have shared my stuff and have been like really fucking awesome. And I don't know. And recently, like I've come into like some newer people that have like messaged me and like said that like the album has like spoke to them like in some certain way and everything, which is really fucking crazy for me, and I sometimes I don't even know like how to like handle it when people are like telling me that
No, it's
stuff, because
cool.
it's like it's such a weird fucking album and such a weird listening experiences, and like everything I do with Zombie Shark has always been fucking weird as shit, so I feel like maybe in that regard, like a lot of what I write too lyrically comes from like a place of like obsession and everything, so and sadness and like people that have like dealt with really hard, weird, fucked up shit in their life and everything, so it maybe it speaks to them like in that way. And if it does, like I'm so fucking grateful for it, because I've always felt like sort of a weirdo, like outcast in a lot of like music stuff anyway. So like I'm sure that there's probably like other people that have been feeling the same way, or feel like they don't really like, they have like great musical ideas but like no voice or people to like pitch it to or anything, so like people send me like there's stuff they're working on like all the time, and I'll listen to like everything like people send me. Like I don't care like what time of the day it is or something. Like I'll check it out and like give feedback and everything, because people fucking need that, man. Because like I
Yeah.
remember like writing shit and like everybody being a fucking asshole to me and like not like giving me the time of day to like listen to like any of my shit and like whatever. And it used to bum me out, because it's like, well, like I got no feedback on any of this. I'm fucking dumb, but also fuck all those people too.
Yeah.
Just do whatever the fuck you want and like fucking get it out, like
Yeah.
if you believe in your product, like other people will believe in it. If you're making shit and you don't really care about it, like how do you expect anyone else to like give a shit
Yeah.
about it?
Yeah.
It's like if people know you're being serious about it and like putting out shit that's like fucking cool, and you believe in that shit, like people will come to it and people will enjoy
Yeah.
it, and like
And it's, you just got to put the work into, and you've got to be willing to kind of fail a little bit in the beginning too, cuz like
yeah.
that's how you learn. Like even with this channel, like I put off kind of like starting it for a long time, even though it was something I wanted to do, because I was so afraid like I don't have the right equipment and people aren't going to like it. And
Right.
I just started doing it, and if you watch the early videos or listen to the early podcasts, like it
Mhm.
sounds and looks like shit, but it's okay. Like that was part of the growing. That's how I learned. Like I couldn't have gotten to
Yeah.
this point if I hadn't done that, and so I slowly learned like, oh, here's something I can get for cheap that's going to help my audio sound better. Oh, here's how I get my lighting right so that my, video doesn't look like shit. And here's how I set up the camera in a better place and all that. But yeah, you got
Yeah.
like so many bands I think are afraid to do that. And then also they get too easily discouraged in the beginning. And I hate
Yeah.
to like,
Well, people are mean as shit, dude. Fucking people in the metal world and in music in general are fucking dicks, dude.
oh,
People
yeah.
fucking
Man,
suck.
especially like lately, we talked about that a little bit, but we don't have to go all the way down that rabbit hole. But yeah, man, like as much as I love my community with the metal community and hardcore, there are like so many just assholes too, and it's rough. It gets really
It's tough,
rough.
man. It's really, yeah. I mean, you're absolutely right, man. I mean, it's anybody who's willing to take like those first feeble steps, like into fucking, whatever. I mean, because like when you don't really have like help with shit, and it's like you really want to fucking do it, it's like you're gonna you're gonna find ways to like get around that shit, regardless, even if it's not like the best fucking setup. I mean, like it's funny, like when I started playing like live shows and shit. I mean, like I was just literally using a fucking quarter jack cable into like my laptop and shit, and
Yeah,
just like screaming over like the like instrumentals and shit. And it's like now it's like my live setup, or what used to be my live setup, is like all like I have like fucking analog synths and pads and like vocal effects and like all sorts of like crazy shit to like glitch out like the instrumentals and make it like a full
yeah.
versatile experience. And I would have never known how to do that like 3 years ago, 4 years ago. It's like it's all shit that like takes time and
Yeah,
building up
you
with it.
you learn as you go, and that's the thing. Like it's not something you can just like get all the knowledge and go into it perfectly from the beginning.
Right.
Like you kind of just pick things up as you go along. And again, you got to be willing to deal with being discouraged. Like I see other podcasters, musicians, whatever, like when things don't go perfectly immediately, I see them start like complaining on social media that nobody's watching me, nobody's listening to me, and it's like you got to realize nobody owes you fucking anything. Like you
Yeah,
got to
nobody
you got
knows.
to earn it. Like and it takes time to get there, and you got to be willing to just deal with that. And I have my moments too where I put up a video that I think is going to be like the one that really blows up and people are going to like, and nobody watches it, and it sucks, but you just kind of take it in stride and go, okay, what did I do wrong here? What can I do differently? And also, do I enjoy the product that I made is ultimately what I fall back
Yes,
on.
that is the biggest key. Like it doesn't matter if the video you made like isn't the best, but if you fucking think it is and think that like like you really fucking enjoy like what you're putting out, then absolutely just keep fucking doing
Yeah.
that. Like as long as you're liking what you're putting out. I think the second you stop enjoying it, it goes back to what I said. If you don't care about the product, why the fuck should anyone
Yep.
else?
Absolutely. And why even do it at that point? Like that
Exactly.
you
Exactly. Because
can
then
you
you
can
hurt on
tell.
the internet, and it's clear that there's like a lot of bands that like clout chase and shit, and just pick up a fucking sound, because it was like I know everybody was like on like the scene revival shit, and it's like I was kind of like in that too with like the scene shirts and everything, but I genuinely fucking love like that period of like band merch, and I like literally like my parents' house is like I must have at least like 300 fucking like scene shirts and shit like all locked away like in my parents' place. And I feel like there was a lot of bands like right when like See You Space Cowboy came out that like try to like capitalize on the mathcore thing. It's like, oh, like this is what sells, this is what people like, and it's like
Hmm.
it's like it just creates like a really bland, boring fucking thing. I've watched a ton of like local bands try to like cash in on the fucking mathcore sound, and now like in 2020 approaching 2021, especially without even having shows, like people are,
Yeah.
I feel like shifting their interests a lot and everything, and it's like I watched a bunch of bands just like break up after like a
Yep.
single thing,
Yeah.
and it's you
And
know
and
it
and
was
w- yeah. What's interesting to me too, from because my primary field is in mental health and counseling, and so like I know a
yeah,
lot about psychology and all this kind of stuff. And what I've kind of noticed too is like in the metal scene in general, but I think particularly in like hardcore and particularly in mathcore, something
Yeah,
about that genre just on average tends to attract people who have like a lot of problems with like self-acceptance and how other people view them.
yeah,
And so as a result, like the anytime they get negative feedback or things don't work out just the way that they want them to, it's like they just lose their minds. And I don't mean to overgeneralize, but I just see that like a lot. Kind of the way you're
yeah,
describing too, with bands just saying fuck it and not being able to get along with each other too, not having a unified vision for the project, getting upset when, sales or shows don't go the way they want them to, and it just implodes. But, other
yeah.
bands, like the bands that I see succeed are usually the ones that don't have that mentality. That my favorite example to throw out there that I've done a million times, but I will again, is the Callous Cowboys. Like
Yeah, yeah, no,
they
they're
are just killing it, and part of it is just because not that Carson doesn't struggle with stuff. I'm sure he does, but I had him on here, and he is just one of the most like hilarious, just genuine people. He says what he wants to say. He's very confident in his speaking. It comes off when he's on stage. When I see them, they've got a whole marketing angle. They've figured out their image, but it doesn't come off as fake. And then the music
yeah.
is just incredible, and it just
I'm
all
so
comes
stoked
together.
for their new shit.
Yeah,
Like
man.
they have like 7 members now, right? Like they have like a
They have a lot.
keyboardist.
Yeah, they have a lot.
That's
They
fucking
also they have like a
insane.
they're weird too because they have like a violinist, but they don't utilize the violin the way most bands would utilize a violin. So like if you don't know
Yeah.
what to listen for, you may not even know that it's there. It's very
It sounds
bizarre.
terrifying live. Like it sounds really fucking scary, like
Yeah.
live. Uh, I forget what their violinist name is. But I've watched like live videos of them, and I wish that sound would like come through more like on the recordings, and I hope it does for like the
Yeah.
new album, like because I feel like you could get some like really terrifying, grisly sounds out of that thing, especially if you like hooked it up to like some fucking pedals and like did some
Yeah.
other like wild, crazy
Yeah.
fucking shit. Like I forget there was like a video I watched of them recently. I think it got shared yesterday or something from a show they played like last year, and it sounds like really detuned and like gross. Like it sounds like horrific. Like
Yeah.
when they're playing it live, I want to see him so bad. I haven't
Yeah.
gotten to see him yet. I would love to play a show with them too. That
Yeah.
would be like, great. But even just
Dude,
to
yeah,
see them live, would be,
keep talking to them
like,
about that too. And that's another thing I like about Carson is he's like been very responsive. I try to drop a line with him every now and then, and we'll just chat about something. And he has hinted that like some of their newer stuff that they've been working on is like he's like, dude, you're not ready for this. It's super fucking heavy. I'm like, oh, I can't wait. Like that's what I want to
yeah,
hear. But
yes,
oh my
yeah,
god, they're just so amazing on so many levels, and I'm so happy too to see like how they've blown up. Like, they're
yeah,
not mainstream by any stretch of the word, but they've gotten big enough that like people know the name. Anthony Fantano shouted them out.
yeah, yeah.
Like, people are taking notice, and the records are selling, and those. I love seeing the pictures of the shows because just seeing those packed crowds, I'm like, yes, like that is the best.
They're all like super young too, right?
Yeah.
Like I don't think anybody's like over like 24, 25 in that
No.
band.
Yeah, I'm
Right?
not even sure how old Carson is, but yeah, they're definitely in that lower 20s range, which can be a
Insane.
great thing, or it's like a blessing and a curse, because I'll say this is kind of like a young man's genre in terms of like really
Yeah,
making that energetic fuck you music, but also
right.
you don't have like always the life experience to be able to deal with kind of the negative aspects and the struggles of it, because you have to learn that
Definitely.
along the way. But I don't know, like they're doing it right now, and I'm so bummed that they're not able to play live at the moment. But I'm really praying at some point they make it to the West Coast so that I can actually see them.
Yeah, they were supposed to come play in Philly like last October. It was like Kanashi, Sleep Sculptor, Callous Cowboys, and that for a like Philly show, like local show, that would have like popped the fuck off. Like I'm so bummed about that shit getting canceled. And then I think they were planning for another like Philadelphia show or something. They might have even been trying to play like FanFest here or something too, which would have been amazing.
Yeah.
But yeah, fuck COVID. This shit
Yeah,
sucks.
man, it sucks. As long as we're talking about like marketing and brand and packaging and shirts and everything, we need to
Right.
talk about
I got
this.
it.
Like,
Yes. Oh
yes,
my
it
God.
came
Oh
yesterday.
my God.
Perfect timing for our
Fuck
conversation. I was
yes.
like, yes. So I'm holding in my hands, since this will just be audio. I am such a sucker right now for creative, just merch. And like in particular, latest the Black Dahlia murder, they did that like D&D campaign, which I thought was cool as shit. But what I'm holding
Yeah.
right now, since people can't see it, is in addition to the CD copy I got of the album, this is a like action figure style packaging with full card art, and in the where the action figure would go, there is a little flash drive with the music and then broken glass and skulls. So I need to know where the idea for this came and how it came to fruition.
Dude, yeah, I'm super into like the whole world of like DIY like action figures and stuff. Like I actually have some in my room right now. Like some shit I've just made myself just like fucking around and whatever. Like I just sometimes make these things like just for fun. And I don't know. I was like so I always try to do something like really fucking crazy like for releases and everything. With the digital C, actually I have it here. For the digital C, I did these like Game Boy cartridge
Oh, that's so
things for it,
cool. That's
and
rad as hell.
I hollowed out a Game Boy cartridge with a flash drive in it, which was like the
That's
same
so
deal. Like, it
cool.
had instrumentals and shit, and then like a limited like little booklet thing like on the inside and whatever. Um,
That's awesome.
but yeah, so I try to like outdo it like every album release is like kind of like how can I fucking make an insane version of it? And I don't know, I was really like itching to do like an action figure release, and I took like a lot of inspiration from like McFarlane toys and shit.
Hell yeah.
Like I don't know if you remember those like Spawn and
Mm-hmm.
fucking
Yeah.
the
Yeah, man,
like
I love
Butchered
them.
Soul. Um, so he had like all those action figures that he had done for like Kiss and Rob Zombie and Marilyn Manson and shit. And the Marilyn Manson action figures are fucking insane. I'll
I
send
haven't
you a
seen
picture.
those. That's awesome.
Dude, they're fucking crazy. Like he did like a whole mechanical animals one and did like Hollywood. I'll send it to you afterwards. But yeah, I don't know. I was really into the idea of like an action figure made out of like the music and like repackaged, or taking like the idea of like a band and like repackaging it into like some kind of like product or toy product. And yeah, I wanted it to be a reflection of the song Mirror Maze. So like when it says like at the top contains pieces of my shattered face, like a lyric of it, and then like
Oh,
having like
okay. I was wondering about the broken glass. Like, I just thought it was funny in
yeah, yeah,
general, but no, that makes more
yeah.
sense now.
Everything is connected, my friend. Yeah, it's all part of like the lyrics of like Mirror Maze and stuff like that, and then like the skulls of like the imagery of like everything like in the album artwork was like skeleton based, so I put like some of the model skulls and shit in there, and then like the skin flash drive kind of looks like the album cover like a little bit, kind of in a weird fucked up sense.
Yeah,
So,
it's so cool. I
dude, I'm
love
so
it.
glad you got it.
Yep.
Was it in decent condition? I've been like so nervous about
Yeah,
shipping.
so it came, the card is great, like it didn't get bent or dinged up or anything. The plastic part had come off,
Oh
but I was
shit.
able to reattach it. Like, it wasn't a big
Oh
deal.
good.
Just a little
Thank God.
super glue
Sorry
fixed
about
that.
that.
But I mean, yeah, that's to be expected. I mean, especially, I mean, there's whole groups dedicated to showing people's records showing up completely jacked, and it makes me so
Right.
sad. So, I mean, if that's the worst of it, honestly, half the time my CDs, when they're digipacks, come with either a corner like totally smashed or the
Uh,
inside plastic is completely shattered. And that shit
shit.
pisses me off. I'm like, it's just a little CD, man. Like, can't you just
Right,
take better
right.
care of this? What the fuck? Because as
Yeah,
you can
dude.
see behind me, like I am
Yeah,
a big fan of still collecting physical media. I would do
oh,
records if I could afford it, but a lot of
I
CDs.
CDs are fucking dope, man. I feel like a lot of people like shit on CDs or something, but I don't know. There's something that's just like really nice about having like a full jewel case CD
Yep.
with like the booklet in it
The
and
smell
everything.
when you open it too,
That
like
fresh CD smell.
I love that
Yeah,
shit. It's
dude. Yeah,
something
I'm glad
magical
I'm
about
glad we
it.
were able to fix the packaging on it and shit.
No, man, it was all good. Don't feel bad about it at all. I was like, oh, this is an easy fix. And what was cool about it too was that even though it came off, it didn't tear the card at all.
Oh,
So
good.
that was like one of my primary concerns is I want to keep the artwork intact. But yeah, man, I just think that is the coolest thing, and I love when bands like cook up this just totally off the wall way of releasing their stuff. Like I remember like Trent Reznor from Nine Inch Nails did a
Mm,
whole talking about this a couple years ago when he released I think it was those EPs that were coming out. I feel
mm,
like he didn't go far enough in terms of the execution in what he ultimately put out, but I did like his mentality of like, I don't want to just do a basic CD. Like, I want to do something different,
right.
but I do want to encourage people to still buy physical stuff because there's something about being
Yeah,
able to hold it and smell it and see it.
definitely.
And
Oh
yeah.
yeah. Yeah, I completely back that all the way. Yeah, like fucking what? Like Tool just put
Oh
up
my.
it's fucking TV like in their fucking CD and shit. Oh fuck. Yo, you got that shit on deck, ready to
Yeah,
go.
man. I was really trying to avoid it because the shit was like I think I need to charge it, which
Oh
is funny to
shit.
think about. Like I have to charge a CD case,
That's
um,
awesome. That's so
but
fucking
yeah, dude,
good.
I was trying to fight it because yeah, they were like it was like 50, $60. Like it wasn't cheap. And I never
Worth
throw
it.
down that much on physical. I'm a little pissed now too because I got this, which I don't regret it because it's just cool and like, you're never going
Right.
to see something like that again. But now they put out a like 30, $40 version that's a different case and it has like it's like a book style one and it's got like a
Oh,
whole full page booklet and it's like
oh
long
shit.
and I'm like, part of me is like, fuck, I want to buy that one now too. And it's funny too, because I don't even like love the album. Like, I enjoy it. I
Right.
think it's good, but it's not like, if I want to listen to Tool, that is not the go to album that I'm going to go to. But I'm such a fan of
Big no
theirs
love
and I respect their creative vision. And like, again, I love, like, I'm a sucker for weird packaging and creative merch and
yeah.
stuff. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
that shit goes too hard with the. I remember like just one of my close friends, Viscera, on the album, Brandon. He's like one of my like closest friends, and like,
And that's
uh,
the like deathcore type band Viscera or is
no, no,
oh
it's
different. I
actually
was confused when I saw that because there's a band Viscera that I reviewed recently that I really enjoyed, and I was like, is it the
yeah.
same Viscera? No.
No, a lot of people actually, a lot of people have been asking me about that, and I really didn't even know there was like a deathcore band called
They're pretty
Viscera
good.
at all.
Yeah.
I'll have to check them out. Yeah, my buddy writes like sort of along the similar same music like I do, like not quite Nintendocore, but I guess like more like digital hardcore kind of stuff. And yeah, he's also like a huge diehard like fucking Tool fan. And I remember he was like so fucking hype about like this CD packaging and shit like
Yeah.
that. And I remember like he fucking came over when they fucking announced it, and like we were both just like, what the fuck, like with the fucking TV and that
Yeah,
shit,
man, it's
like
crazy.
oh my god, yeah,
It
it's so
it
fucking
comes with the little charger cable like in like a little hollowed out part and
crazy,
everything. It's
fucking crazy, dude.
it's
Yeah, I
wild.
think that there's really something to say about like your a band's image, you know? Like I feel like graphic arts and like visual aesthetic like always like is the last part to come for a band like when they're like trying to do shit, and like I feel like having like a nice consistent like image and like there's something to be said about like the visual elements of it,
Yeah,
like
it's
doing like
important.
weirdo packaging kind of shit like that. It makes people like stand out,
Well, it's the
and
first thing people see too. Like I often correlate it to your thumbnail. Like for what I do,
right,
like I really try to make sure that I create a thumbnail that catches your attention regardless of what it
right,
is, because that's the
right.
first thing people see and that's what gets your foot in the door. So same with your artwork and packaging, and like
Mm.
you got to catch people's attention before they can even get a chance to hear if your music is any good.
Yeah, that was the craziest part too, dude, because like I made these things, like I had the intention, like I was gonna like make these. I mean, even with like the Game Boy cartridge things, like when I made those and put out the digital C, like I had those for like at least like a month or two, like before I sold out, and I only made like 25 of them. And with the action figures, like I made like, well, there's 15 and then there's like five extra. And dude, like even like doing that, like I was like not expecting anybody to like pick those
To get
up like
them.
at all, because I didn't even have them finished yet. Like I just had like
Yeah.
a fucking mock-up of it. And
Well, and they
dude, like
sold out like right away, didn't they?
dude, it was insane, man. Like I've never had shit like that happen to me before. Like all 15 copies of that like
That's so
sold
cool.
out in like 20 minutes. And then when I um fucking put like the extra five up on the release day, those sold out in like fucking less than 40 seconds. Like all five of them were just like fucking gone. Like and people were still messaging me about it, and I'm
Are there
like,
any
yo, I'm
more? It's like,
sorry. Like,
fuck, I should have made more.
I mean, I would have, but I just like, I mean, I can, but I still have like a little bit of supplies. I could probably make like three more maybe, but I know like everybody like wants the exclusive collector shit
Yeah,
and like
yeah.
whatever. Honestly, shipping these things has been like a fucking nightmare
Oh,
and a
I'm
fucking
sure.
panic attack. So I just like kind of just don't want to do it.
I'm not sure the postal service appreciates you shipping broken glass either, so
Yeah, you know, right?
it's all
We don't
good
have to
though.
do
It's
that.
for a good cause. But that made me so happy though. Like that's my favorite thing to see is bands posting that like the fans, sold out their album, and they're into it, and that's my favorite feedback I get when I see in my like comments and stuff of like, oh shit, I've never heard of this band and now I've like bought all their albums. So I'm like, that right there, that's what my channel is all about. Like that's what I want to
Right,
see.
right.
Like I could make no money from this, and I basically don't at this point. I make like just enough to like cover the overhead costs, but
Right.
if I could just every day hear somebody say like, "Fuck, man, I'd never heard of this band before, and they are the greatest," and now like I'm listening to their whole back catalog. I pre-ordered their new CD. I'm like that. That is
Uh,
just magical to me.
that's awesome.
Well, I did, before we're done here, I definitely wanted to also talk about something that I didn't talk about in my review, and I was kind of kicking
Yeah.
myself because I made the video, and then later that afternoon I was driving listening to the album again, and Red Pyramids Kill Each Other came on, and I was just staring at that title in my car,
Yeah.
and that's when I messaged you and was like,
Right.
fuck, is this a Silent Hill reference? And I was like, I felt so vindicated when you were like, yeah, man, it's all over the place. So tell me
Yeah.
more about your history with Silent Hill and
Oh,
where it shows up on the record, because I'm a huge fan of that franchise.
oh God, dude. I mean, I don't even know, dude. Like when I was like a kid, man, like I don't know. I found Silent Hill like um it was like a big thing between me and one of my like really close like childhood friends. Uh we were both like super into like just getting fucking scared like all the time when we were kids and shit,
Hell
and,
yeah.
and like we always used to just like because he fucking bought Silent Hill 3, I think,
Three's
because
great.
at a fucking yards or at a flea market, and that was like my first like real introduction to it. And I remember like he was just like, dude, just got this fucking game. It's like the scariest fucking thing I've ever played. And then like we started playing it as kids, and then like then the movie came out like right around that time, the same time I discovered it too. And I don't know, there was always just something visually weird and dreamlike that is still, I think, like unlike any other kind of like horror movie franchise, and it's like it's its own imagery of like this weird, like dreamy, like are you dead, are you alive kind of atmosphere, and then it turns into this like twisted hellscape with like the dude who designed like the monsters, Masahiro Ito, is like one of the craziest illustrators like I've ever seen. Like his
Mm-hmm.
work fucking terrifying. Like just like the most fucked up shit that is just still so original. And it's like it's crazy because he still does like these character designs that he puts out that are still just like I don't know where the fuck you get the reference for creating like these fucking monsters and
Yeah.
fucking
Well,
and
between him and Akira Yamaoka's music,
yeah,
like,
oh my God, the sound design too is just menacing. It's so just like gross, and it's weird too because it's like it's not like it's violent, but there's also like such a really beautiful
yeah,
like
soulful, like,
dreamy element of it that's like really weirdly melancholy and like this weird kind of like sort of undescribable nostalgia for
yeah,
something
it puts
lost
you
yet.
in this very unique headspace.
Yeah, definitely. And I tried to like keep that in mind for like almost everything like in relating to the album too, and even the imagery itself. Like I was really inspired by like Masahiro Ito and like that mixed with like new metal and like kind of like Todd McFarlane like toy packaging imagery. Not so much for the action figure itself, but like also for like the full album artwork thing. Like I was kind of like really into the idea of like hell being this like metal labyrinth of like blood and rust and like
Yeah,
fucking
which is
industrial like
very, other Dark World Silent Hill for sure.
yeah, yeah, definitely, yeah. And it's just been something like I mean my friend and I mean like after we got Silent Hill 3, like we got first one for PlayStation and then Silent Hill 2 and then 4, 5 and 6, and this just like became like a thing like growing up because like we were bored as shit, and we would always just like buy these fucking games and then just sit in the dark at like 3 in the morning just playing this shit until the
Yeah.
sun comes, being too fucking terrified and fucked up to like
That's
sleep,
that's what we did too for both Silent Hill 2 and 3. It was like me and a group of friends, and we would take turns with the controller and everyone would just watch in the dark, and man,
God,
those were
yeah,
good
it's when you
times.
don't even want to play it, it's like I don't know. Yeah, it's such a huge like influence and just I've always just been super obsessed with the imagery and like that whole like ending scene in Silent Hill 2 with like the where you fight like the two like red pyramids and
Yeah.
like the whole like symbology of them like fucking killing themselves at the end. Like I've always been like really
Yeah.
like keen on like that visual for some
Well,
fucked
and
up
the
reason.
meaning and the subtext behind all that and what it means from a psychological standpoint and how it ties into themes and everything. Like, it just brings
Right.
everything I love together too, because I'm into
Mhm.
psychology and counseling, but I'm also into horror and fucked up weird imagery,
Right.
and I'm also into like metal, and there's a lot of like metal sound too, and Akira's soundscapes and even some of the like the guitar work and stuff too. So it just like it's the
I
perfect
can
storm. It's one of the most like thoughtful game franchises, at least the first four Team Silent games
absolutely.
out there.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, they definitely are. And actually, I don't even think The Room was Team Silent
It, it
either.
it
I think
was it was I think they had lost some people and it had been a little bit fractured at that point, but it's still
right.
technically a Team Silent game.
I think 4 is like the most well, five, Silent Hill Origins is like fucked to begin with, but I think like out of like the top like 4, like between like 1 through 4, I think 4 is like the scariest. Like, is
Well,
it's just such a weird
it
fucking Silent Hill game. It's weird. It's
yeah,
weird for Silent Hill even. Like,
it is. Well, there's that added sense of dread too, which I both love and hate at the same time. And I
mm,
hate it from a gameplay standpoint because I hate games where I'm always worried that I could get to a save point where I could be fucked and have to start over. But
right?
from a survival horror standpoint, that's like the exact mindset you want your player in. And so
Yeah,
the whole concept of like your save area could get fucked by the spirits, you could miss items that would be really helpful. The ghosts just follow you and you can't
yeah.
stop them or kill them.
I
and you
love
can only have limited inventory. Like all of that really fucked with me playing that game.
yeah, and I love too the fact that slowly you can't like escape to your apartment
Yeah.
anymore. Like I love that aspect at the end of the game. It's like no matter where you're at, like you're just
Yeah,
fucked.
there's
Like you
nowhere
there's no
safe
fucking
anymore.
yeah. Yeah. Like, especially when like the ghosts and shit start affecting your apartment and shit. Like I remember that being like some of the most like traumatizing visuals
Yeah.
it, like I remember the one part it scared the shit out of me like the one I think you go back and like your shoes are like walking in the fucking apartment and shit and I remember being like so fucking scared of that and my buddy I went to use the bathroom and my buddy like fucking went and put shoes like right in front of the fucking door. I must have been like 10 or like 14 years old and it scared the
Oh
fuck
my
out of
God.
me. I
That's
wouldn't
so
shut up
great.
about that scene being like I was like God this is like I was like this is really fucking disturbing like I can't fucking do this and asshole put the shoes
Yeah.
in
Those
fucking
those those moments stick with you. Like, oh my God,
yeah
that game, man. And just it has one of the best soundtracks too, I think, out of all of them.
so
But yeah, I
really
remember
so
too. Speaking of scaring people, I remember we were playing Silent Hill 3 as a group, and my friend's
yeah
girlfriend was manning the controller. We were at the part where you're in the hospital basement, and you have to solve that puzzle with like
uh,
all the corpses by the furnace.
yeah oh my
And she
God
was like super like involved, like thinking through the puzzle. And my dad sneaks in and just
oh
creeps up behind her and just grabs her by the shoulders and like screams and she cried. She cried for like 10 minutes.
oh, oh
He
my
felt really
God
bad because he didn't mean to scare her that bad, but I still remember that to this day. And
that's
oh man, you just
real.
can't just manufacture moments like that.
No, not at all. Yeah, I'm really hoping that I know they're teasing a new Silent Hill game
Yeah.
for PlayStation 5. I tried playing the Dead by Daylight Pyramid Head thing and I finally after like 2 months have come to terms that I just like fucking hate that game.
Yeah.
Regardless of how many pyramid heads they try to like throw in
Well,
there, like
and people keep misusing Pyramid Head because the whole point of Pyramid Head is that he is a specific manifestation of the protagonist in Silent Hill 2, James.
yeah.
And
Which it doesn't make sense why they would have fucking the girl from fucking Silent Hill 3 in there. Like they don't have any correlation like at
yeah.
all.
Yeah. It like the American developers for the new games just like to me totally shit the bed in so many different ways. And so I'm
Oh,
hoping they get a better team that truly respects and understands this. I'm really bummed that Silent Hills didn't come to fruition because I really thought that that specific combination of people working on that game could have really worked. And the PT
yeah,
demo made it pretty clear that even though it was still a very different thing, that was kind of a good thing. Like, we're not
yeah,
going to try to recapture the magic of that original style. We're going to take it in a different direction. And it
yeah.
seemed like it really resonated, but then all that fucking shit went down with,
Konami.
yeah.
Did you play Death Stranding?
No, I didn't. Like, I don't have a PlayStation either. I'm Xbox
Yeah.
all the way. Like, I'm not like a fanboy or anything, but that's just the
Yeah,
console I have, so I end up missing out on a lot of that stuff.
dude, if you
It
get the chance,
intrigued me, but I'm just like, I don't know if I'd like that kind of game. Like,
you
I don't know.
absolutely trust
Okay,
me, dude,
okay,
trust me, because that is literally. I mean, it's Kojima's leftovers from Silent Hill PT, which or what was going to be, or not PT, what was going to be Silent Hills and
yeah.
shit, with
Well, he's
like
got the
Norman.
same actor. Yeah, Norman Reedus is in it,
Yeah,
and
dude,
Guillermo
that game
del
is
Toro.
really, yeah. If you like really thoughtful fucking and there's lots of like really creepy weirdo fucking bullshit like in that game. And there's an Easter egg in it too where the first city you're in because it's sort of like a post-apocalyptic world and like there's only a few American cities like left in the world and shit. And pretty much like you're traveling to like those places, but the first city you start in, there's a part where you're driving through where it's a full like town space and it's really like tore up and like kind of like gross looking and it's right at the beginning of the game and it's really out of place for like the rest of it. Apparently that was like the original model that they used in the Silent Hills advertisement they like put it in the game, so you're like walking through like the fucking streets of what was Silent Hill in
That's
like
cool.
the year 4080 or like whatever the fuck it is. Like I feel like Hideo Kojima could like really. I don't know if I would trust him fully with a Silent Hill game as much as I would trust him with just doing a full-on horror game that was like all Kojima and like Junji Ito like working together
Yeah,
because
more of like a spiritual successor with like echoes of the vibe or
yeah,
something.
yeah, because I follow Hideo on fucking Twitter and shit, and like I know he was like saying that he said the next game that he wants to make is going to be the most terrifying game ever created. I remember him like fucking like making a tweet like he's like I am dead set on making this the scariest gaming experience of like
Hell yeah.
all fucking.
I'm
I don't know
I'm
if
I'm
you
down
look
for
into
that.
him at all, play Metal Gear at all, but
Yeah, I
um
never got into Metal Gear. I played Metal Gear 2, but my buddy growing up was huge into those games and you know, my favorite my favorite thing with Metal Gear is um Aaron Ego Raptor's Metal Gear Awesome
yeah,
series. Oh my god,
right.
those
Oh
make me laugh
God.
so hard.
Oh shit. Man, dude, that is a fucking throwback.
Dude, I was
Fuck.
just rewatching those the other day. Like, I make a point to watch like old, obscure, like Newgrounds and like first generation YouTube videos every
Right.
now and then because it like takes me back to high school and college. Like, also the like Unforgivable YouTube series and
Oh
like the
yeah.
Ultimate Showdown and all that kind of stuff. I
Holy
love that
shit.
shit, man. We used to in college have we'd have parties and while we're playing like Flippy Cup or beer pong or whatever, we'd either be playing Guitar Hero or we'd have ytmnd.com up
Right.
and we'd just be watching all the latest videos on there. But before I you know, derail this completely, could you share a little bit in terms of like besides Red Pyramids Kill Each Other, like what other overt Silent Hill references kind of show up on this album? Maybe don't give them all away because it is fun to sort of seek them out, but I was interested
Mm,
to hear if there are any other big ones.
Actually, I gotta fucking. I I don't know, man. You're gonna have to like do some digging. A lot of it's like
Okay,
really. It's not like I feel like Red Pyramids Kill Each Other is probably the most
the
like
most direct one.
blatant, the most yeah, blatant. Like everything else is kind of like really like deeply deeply woven into it.
Yeah.
Ideology wise and everything. I tried to write from like character perspectives and other like weirdo fucking shit 'cause I'm a fucking weirdo.
Mirror Maze had me thinking a little bit of the scene in Silent Hill 3 where you're in that bathroom and you're looking in the mirror and all of a sudden your double freezes
Yeah.
in place and the whole other side of the mirror starts getting all fucked up.
Right.
That was one of my
Right.
favorite moments in 3. I remember the first time we did
Oh
that and our
my
jaws just dropped. We were like, "Why did our reflection stop moving? What the what the
god.
fuck is happening over there?" It's just
That
so
shit's so terrible.
unexpected.
Yeah. Their fucking like body starts getting like all burned up and like
Yeah.
splits
I
and
love that
shit.
effect of like the creeping like red rusty like blood veins and stuff like just coming
Oh
out
yeah.
and
Oh yeah. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, that whole fucking scene, that whole game is just like
yeah.
ugh.
I replayed that last year around Halloween for fun and like it is eight those games have aged so well too. Like
Oh
graphically
yeah.
they still look really good. Like of course they're
And
not as
honestly,
like high def as newer games, but the character models honestly look better than like some of the
yeah.
character models on new games. Like they just have so much character to them and they always have that kind of weird kind of like unkempt look to them that makes them extra uncanny in just the right way. Like Heather like is a pretty character model, but she's also like always kind of like got this like dirty, tired look to her as well.
Right.
And
Yeah, dude.
yeah,
Like, yeah, yeah, they all like. I think that's the thing is that like they all like are not like super redeemable either. Like especially like James too, you know, like and
yeah,
I feel like with Silent Hill, like those older games, like I feel like it's they benefit from like not being like super high def, you know? Like I think that's what kind of makes them like scarier is that like it's kind of unclear, and I feel like there's like an element of like terror like in the idea of like not
Yeah.
fully being able to like see like what you're fucking dealing with and shit. And I feel like that's what kind of like ruined it for me with like a lot of like the newer Silent Hill games like
Yeah.
Homecoming and
Now they're
Downpour is
like
that like
action games, which takes
yeah
the
like
horror
that
out of it.
yeah, and they're super fucking clear. Like you can fucking see everything that's like fucking coming, and
Yeah.
like they rely
It
on
fucking sucks.
jump scares, and whatever. So I think it's like great when like shit like isn't perfect. It
Yeah.
goes back to like talking about like fucking like Slipknot too. I feel like the thing that makes like self-titled in Iowa like so great is that they're not like the most well-produced shit like in the
Yeah.
world. And I feel like that's what ruins like a lot of like their sound. And I feel like in general, I'm noticing this shift a lot with like bands and stuff that like producers are sort of like backstepping a little bit with like metal and everything, that it's like not as crystal clear like
Yeah.
which I like that a lot
Yeah.
more. Like I kind
Yeah,
of
me
hate like
too.
soulless production and shit.
Yeah, that's been my complaint about a lot of newer albums. Like some bands that works for them, like Periphery.
Yeah,
I love Periphery, and they have just
yeah,
like crystal clear, really smooth production, and it works for their sound. But a band
right,
like Slipknot, I don't like their newer stuff for a lot of different reasons, but partially it's the
right,
production. Like it just has no bite
yeah,
to it. Same with the latest Lamb of God album. Like it
yeah,
just
yeah,
takes all of the edge out of it. That's why I love, and I'm sorry if listeners are tired of me talking about this, but I've referenced it so many times. As the Palaces Burn uh,
right,
has that messed up production history where it turned it
yeah,
into this like totally ugly raw mix, but I love the sound of that album. Like that is
right,
what drew me to them in the first place. Is there's no other album that sounds like it, and it's mostly by accident. Like if they had
right,
had their way, it would have sounded probably a lot more like Ashes of the Wake, which I also enjoy. But there's
right,
something
right.
about that production of As the Palaces Burn that is just unmatched in just the violence of it, and it's
Yeah,
so great.
same goes for like old like cleansing era fucking Suicide Silence
Mm-hmm.
too.
Yeah.
There was like I watched a fucking one of those videos. I forget what the dude's name is on YouTube, but he like takes master files from like decades ago and goes through like every single recorded stem of the album before they even like had effects on it and shit, and like seeing like how everything was tracked. And like
That's
there
cool.
was
I'll have to check that
very
out.
little. Yeah, no, dude, check it out because I think he either does Bludgeon to Death or Unanswered. I don't know how this dude gets these master files, but like there was very little editing outside of the drums that was made for that album, and it was a lot of them like playing together, and like everything is just super raw and just gross sounding. Like it's fucking disgusting, like. And I think it was recorded like a traditional like '90s death metal album too, which I find like really awesome. The fact that there's like this like what at the time like a newer sound of like deathcore and anything being like treated like a Carcass album or something like that is like really fucking sick. And I think it stands for like the production too, because like nothing else ever sounded quite like that afterward. I guess like No Time to Bleed is like pretty close too, but like everything after that just started getting like a lot cleaner and like
Mm-hmm.
lost like a lot of the fight and everything for it. So there's something to be said about like shittier recording and shittier quality in
Yep.
general that when done right can really fucking make something amazing. That cannot be replicated.
Yeah, absolutely. I can't remember which one it is, but I remember recently I was talking about an album that did it so perfectly, and that was one of my highlight points of that album is just that it sounded much more like something kind of like out of the late 90s, early 2000s, and they managed to sort of capture that essence and make it match to their sound, and it's just there's something magical about that. That was another reason too why I'm like really pissed at In Flames that they've been like re-recording which album is it? Is it Colony or Clayman? I can't remember which one it is
Man, I
now.
think.
Yeah, and I'm just like, why? Like and I heard the mix of one of the songs and I'm like, this is like you sucked all of the essence out of the song. Why would you do this? Like there was nothing wrong with the original. Like some bands they can like remaster and remix like an old release and make it new and make it great. but this just did not need to happen. I'm like,
I think
why?
if it was like the band's intention to always kind of have like a clean cut sound, if it was
I
like,
call it. I
like a
call
band,
it. Sorry to interrupt you, but I call it George
yeah,
Lucasing it. Is
yeah,
is what they're doing?
they're fucking real, dude. Giving it the fucking Disney Plus treatment,
Oh
dude.
my
Like,
god.
yeah, I think like, yeah, like, I feel like if you're a band and your goal, like your sound there's a need for your sound to be clean and like pin tight and like crystal fucking clear, like a band like Periphery, like that is like a band that like always needs, top notch fucking production. It makes sense for them to go back and like turn like an early album to like revamp it up. But if you're like a band like In Flames, where that was never like the intention of your music to be like pristine and fucking gorgeous and shit, it's like nobody wants that,
Yeah.
like
No.
nobody. I mean, I'm sure there's probably some whack like diehard fans that are like, oh
Yeah.
shit, it fucking
I,
rocks, man.
and I kind of get it from like a creator standpoint because I do have moments where like I'll put a video out and I get really what's the word, like, oh, just in my head about, oh, the lighting wasn't right and are people going to be really bothered by it, or the sound wasn't quite the way I wanted it to. It's a little bit crunchy, and to the
Yeah.
point where I'll be like, oh, maybe I should re-record it and redo that one. And
Mhm.
I'll stop myself though, and I'll just send a link to someone and be like, watch this and let me know what you think. And like 99% of the time, they're like, oh, it's great, it's fine. And I'm like, the lighting didn't bother you? And they're like, oh, I didn't even notice. Or like, yeah, I
Yeah.
noticed it, but like, it's really not a big deal. Like, nobody's gonna
Mhm.
care. And so I've learned to kind of just like, okay, just let it go, just let it be its thing.
Right. Right. Yeah, for sure. For sure.
Well, I'm sure we could talk all day, and I would love to. And we'll have to do this again sometime too, because honestly, that's my favorite
I'd
thing
be
to do
down.
is just have returning guests that are just like good at talking. Because honestly, not all
Yeah.
musicians are great at talking. Like it's a separate
Yeah.
skill set. But like I think particularly like I've had Doug Moore from Piron on here twice, and that guy could talk your ear off for like 10 hours. And then I'd love to have. I've
Right.
had
Right.
Carson on here twice too because he's the same way. But yeah, we'll definitely have to do this again. But before we wrap up,
Please.
I do always ask, what is a underground metal or hardcore group that you feel like deserves a lot more attention than they're getting right now that you want to shout out?
Um, I've got I've got two. I got two right
Okay.
now. One, my fucking friends in Ascent Like Wolves, who are been like my fucking closest friends since like high school and shit, and um, they're working on a new album now that they they've been around for a while, but I feel like they kind of always get like shafted on a lot of like their releases and shit. And I genuinely think that they are probably some of the most creative people in metalcore and post-hardcore. They're making a new album called Mystic Auras, and it I've heard it, and I genuinely think that it is some of the most creative, like progressive, forward-thinking post-hardcore to like come out of the scene. It's a really fucking amazing listening experience. So definitely them, and also my Nintendocore homie, Blind Equation. James McHenry from that project is like the Mozart of fucking metalcore and deathcore, and he too is also like very big like in the Nintendocore world and everything, and he's working on a new album that I believe he said was going to come out in August, if not September. I'm also doing a guest feature on that album too, and he just sent me like his fucking master for it, and I really think that it is like it sucks so bad that like fucking COVID is like fucking shit up right now because like I really think that there's so many good fucking Nintendo Core artists that are really fucking killing it this year, like Codex Ozgova, James from Blind Equation, my friend Eric from I Killed Techno. There's also just like a bunch of other like fucking awesome people that really got shafted with like their releases this year and everything. And I think
Yeah.
James is really gonna like. I feel like Codex like took over like the beginning of the year with their blend of like full band like Nintendo Core, I come through like middle of the year with like whatever the fuck bullshit I got, and then James I think is really gonna cap off like the end of the year of like 2020 being like the Nintendocore revival because I really
Hell
think
yeah.
that I don't know, we're like the fucking three horsemen of the fucking apocalypse of
Fuck yeah, man.
Nintendocore. So definitely that
I'm all
Land of
about
Quake
that.
and Semi Wolves, fucking check them out. They're the homies.
Cool. And then anything you want to make sure people know that we haven't talked about already about the album, about Zombieshark, anything moving forward?
No, I mean, I think what I said with I Will Destroy You stands still. It's been out for a week today, actually. It's been out for 7 whole days. Um, Merch is pretty much all gone. I only have like 4 cassette tapes left and 5 wall flags, which is nuts. So get your ultra rare coveted Zombie Shark merch because it'll be
Hell
worth
yeah.
trillions and billions of dollars on Discogs.
And
So
it's
get your
mostly
retirement now.
it's Bandcamp is the best place to get all that stuff.
Yep, Bandcamp for the merch, and then I'm on Spotify, Apple Music, fucking Tidal. I'm trying to get on TouchTunes really fucking bad so you can play them at your parents' bar, which should be okay. I'm really trying hard to
Oh,
like
is that
fucking
like karaoke, that digital karaoke, not karaoke,
yeah,
the jukeboxes? Okay.
yeah,
Fuck yeah,
yeah.
man.
I'm trying to
That'd
like
be
do that
sick
shit
as
so
hell.
hard. I know, just fuck up everybody. Just like play like
I
100 less, like
there was this bar
50
in
times.
Chicago, like this little hole in the wall place that had one with, and we'd play pool and shoot darts, and then we'd like try to find the most fucked up, weird, random shit we could find on the machine and play it, and everybody would always look over at us and be like, "What the fuck did you put on?"
Yeah. Yeah, that shit's fucking sick. But yeah, so I'm working on a lot of shit right now. I pretty much like have not stopped working on like writing like new material on and off since before the album came out. I think I'm gonna do like a full electronic EP, I think, or a split maybe, like something that's like all just drum and bass and like synthy stuff, kind of like Whispers from Nexus and like 100 likes and stuff. Just something like short while Sam and I kind of like try and figure out like what to do with like the new guitar based songs and everything. I'm hoping to either have a new single or some sort of like electronic EP thing out by like the tail end of the year. And I also have like another like Cybergrind side project called Data Pagan, and I'm about to like put a new album out for that as well. I just don't. When I do, like, I'm probably just gonna like finish it and just like drop it. I'm not gonna like
Cool.
do like a big thing for it, but I'll send it your way too beforehand.
Awesome. Yeah, definitely. I'll want to check that out for sure. And just to, since we haven't said the full title this whole time we've been talking, so it's
Oh yeah,
the album is "I Will Destroy You, Myself, and
I've
everything
ever.
I've ever loved." All right, it's hard to read on the sticker too. I was reading. I'm
I
like, I've
know.
said this a bunch of times, but now I got tripped up by that. And I like the for fan stuff on here too. Genghis Tron, Machine Girl, and Dr. Acula. Definitely Genghis Tron, man. Genghis Tron. I don't want to get on a whole other thing, but man, Genghis Tron, if they put out a new album, I'm pretty stoked for that because I
Oh,
loved Board Up the House. And I hope it's not another number 12 situation where I get overly hyped and it's been a long time, but we'll see what comes out of it.
I feel like for them, they could just like fucking put out a 2 hour long album of them like I don't know eating a fucking bag of Doritos and playing Call of Duty. I just think it's like the most
Hell
genius
yeah.
shit ever.
Yeah.
I'm fucking ready.
Hell yeah.
Anything out of them. I don't
Yeah.
care what it's like.
I'll have to see if I could get a hold of them too, because that would be cool to have them on here. I've been really like stoked to talk to some people that like I've listened to since back in the day and never would have imagined. Like I had Chris Hornbrook from Poison the Well on here, and that
Whoa.
was just like mind blowing to me because I had been such a fan of Poison the Well since early high school, and You Come Before You is like up probably in like my top 3 albums of all time. And to get to talk to Chris about that stuff and just shoot the shit was unreal. But he is just such a cool, down to earth guy too. And I'd love to hear more from them, but it
I
seems like
would,
that's probably never going to happen.
yeah. I think you should really try and push for a fucking Genghis Tron interview
Yeah,
because
man,
like
that would probably be rad.
they don't really have like any interviews or like press or anything. I mean,
Yeah,
if
I
they
haven't.
do, it's been
Yeah,
eaten up algorithm. And I was just watching like some of their fucking live shows and everything, and God, what a fucking amazing band! It's
crazy.
fucked up, like just how fucking good they were, and I'm super fucking stoked. They just did like a vinyl release of like Dead Mountain Mouth and Board Up the House, and I bought that shit like so fast. Dead Mountain Mouth is like definitely my personal favorite from them. I love Board Up the House, but I would love to hear this is like a perfect example of like what we were talking about with like In Flames, like a band like re-recording older shit with like newer production. Genghis Tron, I think, would absolutely benefit from that,
Hmm.
especially with like all the production techniques like we have now, and like they were working
Yeah,
with like people like fucking like Tim Hecker and like I think like I don't know if they had some hands with like Aphex Twin too. Um, they did like a lot of like really awesome musical collaborations with like electronica artists and everything, and I feel like
yeah,
them getting like a touch up on it because like even revisiting like Dead Mountain Mouth, like there's some like production techniques and like synth sounds like I feel like I'm only hearing in
yeah.
like pop music now, like
I
like even like 100 gex level of like production and noise and shit, like it's buried in that mix, but like they would
yeah.
benefit so hard from a full on remix of that album.
I feel like whenever I listen to the latest stuff from The Armed, I feel like that's kind of like a hint of what that kind of could sound like with modern
I've heard that band.
production.
Oh, the Armed.
Yeah, the Armed are sick, man. Like I prefer not the latest album, but the album before that with like the David Bowie reference cover, with like the
Right.
hipster with like the paint and the cigarette and everything. That one's more of a
Yeah, yeah,
straightforward, just balls to the wall hardcore album. But their latest one, they described it as like a bunch of hardcore kids trying to make a pop album, and it's much more synth driven. And it kind of did remind me of like some elements of Genghis Tron's sound. So it's interesting.
yeah.
And
I'll
if you want
definitely
to hear
check.
something really fucking weird too, it's not out yet, but the latest album from there's this Slav deathcore band called Within Destruction, and they've always been great, super heavy, and like don't take themselves seriously. Like they embrace the whole squatting Slav meme, and like their whole
Right, right.
community is
Oh,
just
wait,
full of memes and
they have
stuff.
like a whole like, vaporwave fucking type
Yeah.
like
Well, and
within the
the
album.
latest album, there's a couple videos for it right now. They've taken on this whole like Japanese aesthetic, and there's like anime
Right.
in the music videos, and then they have like Japanese artists on the album, and they're utilizing like instrumentation from the region, but then also like a lot of weird like synth stuff, a lot of like EDM elements, and then like even like trap is like
Yeah.
seeping its way into. So it's like totally weird and off the wall, and you might be down with that because it's just totally bizarre, and I love it.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll definitely check it out. Yeah, I think I actually did hear like a single or two from that before, and yeah, I remember being like pretty interested in
Yeah,
it. Yeah, I'll definitely check it
they
out. Them and Armed.
they just do whatever the fuck, and they really just don't care. They even have a song on the album where the chorus is, "I don't give a fuck if you hate me because I already hate myself." And I'm like, that is the best chorus.
Epic,
So good.
man.
One last thing.
Yeah.
Now that I know that you do all this cool, graphic design and T-shirts
Oh
and all that cool stuff, and you even coming up in the world did it for, Finn
yeah.
McKenty himself, the
Right.
man, the myth, the legend. Where is the
Right.
best place for people to reach you if they want to employ you for their services?
Yeah, I have a page on Facebook that I just actually started this year, which is really bad of me, but it's Curly Art Illustration and Design. Instagram is the best way to get a hold of me too. It's just curly art underscore one word. Also on my personal Facebook too, which I've pretty much all but turned into a business account at this point. Corey Curly Swope. Feel free to just like message me, ask me anytime, for work. I am actually I kind of have more work than I know what to do with right now. And which has been awesome. But yeah, I mean, I'm about like 3 weeks out probably for
Okay.
starting anything. But if anybody wants to hit me up about album
Yeah.
covers, t-shirts, flyers, posters, wall flags, anything, literally anything, just feel free to ask me. I will. It may take me a little bit to get back to people, but I always like reply to my messages. So just
Yeah.
hit me up.
And listeners, definitely check out the art because it is super rad. Like all sorts of, neon monsters and
Yeah,
all that kind of fun stuff. So,
got this in the mail from James,
oh, hell yeah.
world's
That's so
biggest Bass
cool.
Pro Shop.
Dude, I'm gonna once I like feel like I'm in a place where people would actually buy some merch from the site, I will definitely hit you up because I love
Wait,
that
Middle
style.
Trenches need like some like Chiodos looking shit. Like
Hell yeah.
fucking on a cyan blue T-shirt or yellow with like some I don't know, some gingerbread men eating, I don't know,
Fuck yeah, man.
nerd or something.
Yeah, man. When the time comes, I'm gonna let you go nuts because I think you get it. So I'll be happy with whatever comes out of your brain, especially with you got to sneak in a Silent Hill reference in there somewhere too. Absolutely.
Dude, if we did a fucking Silent Hill scene core shirt,
Fuck, dude, make
oh,
it
please,
happen.
please, God, somebody, throw me a fucking bone, dude. Just
Yeah.
fucking do it.
Yo, listeners, if we want to crowdsource this and just like make it happen together, that would be cool.
Please, please, God, I would love nothing more than a
Oh
big,
man.
like, cartoony fucking pyramid head or some
Dude, that
shit.
I'm so down. I'm so down for that. All right, man, but I got other shit I got to do unfortunately, but this has been really fun, so definitely
Yeah,
stay
this
in
is
touch
sick.
and also if you ever find yourself in Portland, Oregon, look me up. We'll get a beer, get something to eat maybe. Hopefully restaurants will still be open. All that.
I want to tour the West Coast so fucking bad. I'm hoping my goal for 2021 is to fucking tour because all my fucking tours and shows and everything got fucked up this year. So
Yeah.
definitely 120,000% want to fucking come up that way. So
Hell
we
yeah.
will make it fucking happen.
Cool. All right, man. Well, have a good one and stay in touch.
You too, man. Take it easy.
All right, later. All right, and that'll do it for another episode of Trench Talk. Hope you enjoyed it. I really had fun recording that one. Had a great time talking to Cory. He just seems like a totally cool dude, and at this point, I consider him a friend. Like I try to do as much as possible with anyone who comes on here. So definitely be sure to check out the album, and again, check out Cory's artwork as well, because it really is just completely unreal. But as always, if you haven't already, please do subscribe to the channel because there's plenty more episodes to enjoy on here. I even referenced a few in this episode. And this podcast, again, is available on all platforms. But regardless which platform you decide to listen to it on, also please do subscribe to the YouTube channel because there are tons of videos. At this point, as I'm recording this, I've been putting them out daily, but at least weekly, I am putting out all sorts of other content that is not on the podcast, album reviews, tier lists, you name it, there's all sorts of cool things on there. So check that out as well. Also, drop us a rating, drop us a comment. It really helps us come up in the algorithm so that more people get exposed to this and we can get some new fans that way as well. And in the description, you can also find links to the social media, the email newsletter, and our Patreon and Subscribe Star if you want to take that extra jump to becoming a supporter. But that'll do it for now. Flight of Icarus signing off. I will see you in the trenches.